Welcome. This video is about how to hope for the best and plan for the worst. There are 5 very important things you must know to be prepared for whatever life challenges inevitably will come your way, and plan for it best you can as well. So please, stay tuned. Welcome to the SCG Show, the home of education entertainment. And if you are new here, welcome to the channel. Please don't forget to hit the like button, please subscribe, and also hit the bell notification so you do not miss any of these videos. There is no greater example of the worst happening in recent times than the coronavirus pandemic in early 2020. All countries were hardly prepared for it. Everybody was utterly confused by it, even still to this day. There were lockdowns, it killed people, it destroyed businesses, and so much more, and I won't go into it. But ultimately, regardless of whether you think it was real or not a conspiracy, there is no denying that the pandemic has dramatically affected the entire world. Now, how prepared were you? What did you hope for when this was happening? As I'm recording this, the pandemic is still well and truly in full swing, with second waves hitting countries and winter fast approaching. By the time this will actually air, it will be right bang in the middle of winter. Will there be a solution by this point? I sure hope so. What if, God forbid, things have got worse? I need to prepare for it. This is the true essence of this video, ultimately preparing for the worst that can happen, but also hoping that things will improve for the better. This is also not a how to survive a pandemic video, I'm just using it as an example. With so many people living for today and not preparing for tomorrow, is it really a surprise that in a recession these people are left with absolutely nothing? Or how about the person who excessively eats to the point that he receives a heart attack because he never took care of his health? I'm not saying that I'm a psychic that can predict your future or even mine. If I was, I'd be a billionaire. But you can prepare for it, and in that way, you can better equip yourself for life's inevitable curveballs. Be the sort of person that repairs their roofs when the sun is shining bang in the middle of summer, not in the middle of wintry showers. Preparing for the worst is not negative and being overly cautious, but in fact, it is bargaining with the future. An emergency fund, for example, is there in the likely case of an emergency. It does not mean having one there means there will be a financial emergency. It is protecting yourself for the worst case scenario, which is smart and positive, in my opinion. Here are 5 practical ways you can hope for the best and plan for the worst. Number 1, acquire the knowledge. Now, back when I was in a toxic relationship, I was so confused with what was going on. I had no idea if I was the problem or they were the problem. It was confusing, stressful, and the wrong type of emotional rollercoaster. That is when I first started acquiring the necessary knowledge upon my situation. In private, I read books, attended workshops on psychology, and watched hours upon hours of YouTube videos on relationships, narcissism, etc. As I was doing so, I still tried my hardest to turn my toxic relationship around into a positive one. Sadly, it wasn't going to be the case because based on my research, the discovery was incredibly simple. I was dating a narcissist. And for those who know what it's like to date a narcissist, they're a real piece of work. It was then when I realized I had no choice whatsoever but to leave and walk away. There was no bargaining with such a toxic person, and I weighed up my options to realize it would be healthier for me in the long run for me to go. I gave it one more try with the narcissist, however all I could see were the glaring red flags and the common behaviors of a toxic negative person. I knew the only way to do this was to plan an exit strategy, but the optimist in me told me that the relationship could somehow be salvaged. Sadly, it couldn't be, and one fateful evening, once again tipped over the edge by narcissistic abuse, I walked away and cut contact. Had I not acquired the knowledge, 2 scenarios would have occurred. I would have either stayed and ultimately the relationship would just remain toxic, or 2, I would have been pushed to the limits to the point where something bad would have happened, done something I regret, or vice versa. And life is way too short for that. Also, you will never be good enough for the wrong person. However, my point being, had I not done the research, my life would have got progressively worse staying in a toxic relationship. Not only that, I would have also, when the time was to walk away, had no idea how to handle it. Therefore, learning about narcissism and how to safely leave one played an enormous part in my recovery and in my healing. There was no way I could have handled this situation without it. Also, it made me more aware of the red flags to look out for, especially with somebody suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. So, acquire the knowledge of the worst case scenarios whilst remaining positive and plan accordingly. Number 2, avoid perfection. The essence of being human is that one does not seek perfection. Social media and fake personas, usually depicted on reality TV, has given people a false image of themselves. We see a beautiful face on social media, plastered in makeup, behind filters, edited to perfection as if they could be on the cover of Vogue magazine, only to realize that they look absolutely nothing like that. On top of that, we have men who like to pose next to a Ferrari, insisting that they own it to impress people that they truly don't even like. Ultimately, these people are seeking superficial, but ultimately perfection. A single and rather desperate man will not even dare to ask a beautiful woman out who probably even likes him a lot because he is terrified of potential rejection. He masks his fear of failure to that of perfection, aka, if I don't ask her out, she cannot potentially reject me, therefore I win. If you continue to do what is easy, your life will be hard. However, if you carry on doing what is hard and difficult, your life will eventually become easier. Perfection does not exist. Human beings are not perfect. There is no perfect job. There is no perfect place. There is no perfect person. Just ideals, masked in a falsehood of perfection that we create or the people around us do. They place them on a pedestal, all because they own a Rolex or have over 50,000 followers on their social media. A woman I knew was the healthiest person I had ever met. Worked out every single day, was in impeccable shape, never ate anything unhealthy, was all amazing rich foods only, never touched a cigarette nor a drop of alcohol, was a positive, vibrant, happy person, no stress. Sadly, she died over a year ago. What was the cause of her death? She died for no reason. No heart attack, no underlying issues, nothing at all. This was a woman who strived towards health perfection, was the healthiest person you would ever meet, and despite that, was tragically taken from this world. If you want to become better at preparing for the worst whilst hoping for the best, it is time you kicked perfection to the curb. Embrace your flaws. Nobody is perfect. Number 3, turn problems into projects. Problems are not stop signs, they are guidelines. One of my many mentors taught me a different way to deal with any problem you have, and ever since, it is something I have always found absolutely fascinating. He said to me, the next time you are faced with a problem of any kind, which you will, try your best to turn it into a project. How can we define what problem is? A problem is a matter or a situation regarded as unwelcome or harmful and needing to be dealt with and to be overcome. Now, how can we define a project? A project is an individual or collaborative enterprise that is carefully planned to achieve a particular aim. It is not putting a positive spin on it, that's not the only thing, but helping you prepare better for the future. When I was dealt the blow of closing a former business of mine, I took it extremely personally. But then I saw the pursuit of a new business as a project, not a problem. The fact I no longer had any income, which I was not prepared for in the slightest, really sent me spiraling out of control to the brink of almost depression. But I remembered those wise words of turning this problem into a project. This project lasted a few years to the point I created several businesses and now have this channel, the SCG Show, as the latest in a string of my goals coming to reality. Out of one problem/project came several projects. And the good news is I learnt from my mistake to never ever have all my eggs in one basket ever again, but that's an entire other video. You could do the same. To prepare for the worst, see any potential problems as projects. Take the same enthusiasm you have for a project to a problem and watch your life transform for the better. Number 4, and procrastinators look away. Do the work now. When I was a kid, whenever I got home from school, my mother, bless her, always insisted to me to do the homework first and have the fun later. So I'd come home, I'd be exhausted from school. You know what it's like being a kid, and you just want to play on your games console. You just want to watch TV. You just want to lounge around. You want to play in the garden. But my mother taught me, hey, listen, the longer you leave it, the longer it's going to be there. Why not do the work now? So then you've got the rest of the late afternoon, evening off to do what you want. I stand by that very same ideology to this very day on absolutely everything. If you have a problem, if you have a situation, if you have a task that you have to take control over, and it can be resolved straight away, as in if you do it now, it can be resolved, just do it. Do it now. I may be a stickler, I may be a stick in the mud, but I do the following. I pay my bills on time. If I obviously can afford to, I do it. I work overtime to make sure I'm ahead of schedule. Yes, I would even cancel plans to make sure I do the work there and then, so then I don't have to come back to do it. I make the sacrifices necessary in line of my work. If I have to go and put myself out, which I actually had to do this morning, the whole of this morning, had a situation to deal with. I could have left it to tomorrow, I could have left it to this evening. I decided to get it done now, and by doing it, I resolved my project, not my problem. And I do the work now to bargain with the future, aka my future self. If you're about to go on vacation, take a break, whatever, why would you want to let your work pile up and do it after your vacation? Get it done so you can enjoy that vacation 10 times more and not have it looming over the back of your head, knowing that you've got to do it when you get back. Do the work now. Finally, number 5, life is seasonal. Let's look at Frank Sinatra's smash hit song, That's Life. Listen to the lyrics. That's life, that's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, you're shot down in May. But I know I'm going to change that tune when I'm back on top in June. I said that's life, and as funny as it may seem, some people get their kicks stomping on a dream, but I don't let it get me down, because this fine old world will keep spinning around. How true a word spoken by one of the greatest singers to have ever walked the earth. Life operates in seasons, meaning if you're up now, you can sure as hell bet you will be down soon, and vice versa. Meaning that if you are prepared for the worst, you can pass through the storms to better days, realizing it's only temporary. Most people live their lives like Chicken Little, bemoaning the bad hand the world has dealt them, whilst constantly worrying that the sky is going to fall on them. When you know that tough times do not last, but tough people do, you can be better prepared for it. Realize your own mortality and that of those you love too. Appreciate your freedoms and the little things in case we go into another lockdown from a war or a pandemic, God forbid. Come to terms that being single is only temporary and someone is out there better suited for your life. Be mindful that growing a business from scratch takes time and there will be bumps along the way. Understand that life is so unbelievably short and that we must enjoy and do as much as we can as for as little time that we're here. Consistency, persistence, patience, and belief are the fundamentals to a better existence and approach to preparing for the worst whilst hoping for the best. So in summary of how to hope for the best and plan for the worst, number 1, acquire the knowledge. Next, avoid perfection. Turn your problems into projects. For God's sake, do the work now and understand that life is seasonal. Good luck and thank you for watching.